Hey guys, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, and I'm based here in beautiful, sunny Southwest Florida. And this is the Olympus 12-100mm f4 Pro Series lens. And it's a well-built, incredibly versatile lens with a couple of important drawbacks that you need to be aware of. Now, if you're curious to know what those drawbacks are, stick around. Let's check it out. First up is the build, and Olympus knows how to make quality lenses. Like the others in the Pro line before it, the 12-100 is beautifully designed, made out of metal, is well sculpted, and it's put together with laser-like precision. It's Gucci meets Porsche level of design and quality. Because it's made out of metal, it comes in at a hefty 1.23 pounds or 561 grams, which is on the plus side for a micro four thirds lens, which makes sense given the breadth of its focal range. The zoom ring is grippy and tight and also well dampened, yet somehow it rotates fluidly with a nice level of resistance. It almost sounds like it's under pressure, and the lens is letting out air as it extends and retracts. The focus ring is also smooth and moves unimpeded with the slightest bit of resistance. One of the great things about Olympus that they've succeeded in doing across the Pro line of zoom lenses is the fantastic implementation of the focus ring clutch mechanism for manual focus. Even though these lenses are fly-by-wire, manual focus works as if it were an old-school analog lens because there's a proper focus distance meter, which is ideal for video shooters who like to use manual focus. It's a lesson in implementation and design that I wish Sony would learn and incorporate into their lenses and camera bodies. On the inside, it's a fairly complex formula of 17 elements arranged in 11 groups, and included in that formula, according to Olympus, it features, and I quote, 1 double-sided aspherical element and 3 aspherical elements are featured in the optical design to limit spherical aberrations for improved sharpness with reduced distortion. Additionally, 5 extra low dispersion elements, 2 super HR, which is high refractive index elements, and 1 HR element are used to control chromatic aberrations and color fringing for greater clarity and color fidelity. There's that whole color fidelity thing again. And the whole combo sounds thrilling, never mind the Z coating and the Z nano coating that have been applied to individual elements to noticeably reduce reflections and prevent lens flare and ghosting for improved contrast and color neutrality in strong lighting conditions. It all just sounds so over the top and glorious. The aperture ranges from f4 to f22 throughout the entire zoom range, and speaking of the aperture, there are 9 rounded aperture blades for decent autofocus bokeh rendering, though you don't usually buy a general purpose lens like this to be dazzled by its bokeh. In addition to the OMD's line of amazing in-body image stabilization, the 12-100 also has lens stabilization that works in conjunction with a stabilized Olympus OMD body to give us, wait for it, a sublime 6.5 stops of image stabilization. That's pretty amazing. The Olympus Pro line of lenses are also renowned for their robust weather sealing, and the 12-100 is no exception. This thing can handle just about any kind of inclement weather that Mother Nature can throw at it. On the downside, the only thing that I can really come up with is that it's a little bit on the hefty side, which frankly, to me is completely understandable given its vast focal range. Bottom line, for build, it just doesn't get much better than this, meaning the 12-100 gets a perfect 10 out of 10 for build quality. Next up is autofocus speed and accuracy. Outfitted with Olympus's MSC, or Movie and Still Compatible autofocus system, autofocus in both video and stills is fast, silent, and stunningly accurate. With the latest camera bodies, I've been using the 12-100 on the Panasonic G9 and on the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II. Let me just demo this really quickly. I'm going to focus on something close first, and I always forget to mention this, but the minimum focus distance for the 12-100 is just under 6 inches or 15 centimeters, which does give this lens some value as a macro lens. But onto the AF, something close. I mean, that's unbelievably quick. And then something far away, I mean, it's just like that. I mean, super fast. Though I do have to say, in my experience, it does hunt a little bit on low contrast subjects, meaning it'll jackhammer about before it latches on. Fortunately, it happens so fast that it's unlikely for you to miss the shot, but it is something you need to be aware of. In video, continuous autofocus is smooth without a lot of jackhammering around on both cameras that I've been using it with. Though I have to say, in my experience, continuous autofocus performance in video is a little bit more consistent and just a little bit better on the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II. All in, autofocus is fast, silent, and crazy accurate with just a little bit of initial delays in acquisition on low contrast subjects. So for AF speed and accuracy, the 12-100 gets a 9.5 out of 10. Next up is optical quality and the quality of the results. You know, you have to hand it to Olympus because they've done the most amazing job of squeezing out optically incredible lenses for the Micro Four Thirds system. And the 12-100 is no exception. It's optically superb throughout the entire zoom range, which admittedly is a feat in and of itself. Tack sharp, wide open, from 12 millimeters all the way to 100 millimeters. It's simply remarkable. Now, the downside, if you're a bokeh-aholic, you may find the 12-100 a little bit of a letdown because in full frame terms, the 12-100 has a full frame equivalent of 24 to 200 millimeters in terms of field of view, but it also has a full frame equivalent depth of field of an f8 lens. So you're not going to be dazzled by its autofocus bokeh rendering. But the bokeh is pretty decent in spite of that, and the autofocus bokeh rendering gets a little bit better as you get physically closer to your subject. Because of the in-body lens correction of Micro Four Thirds camera bodies, vignetting, distortion, and chromatic aberrations are all reasonably well controlled, and they won't hinder your images in any meaningful way. Lastly, unlike most zooms, my results actually seem to be the sharpest wide open at f4 with the 12-100, again throughout that entire zoom range. By the way, I'm curious, in the comments below, tell us how you best utilize the 12-100 and what you like to photograph with this lens. That said, as with all of my reviews, don't take my word for it. I want you to see it for yourself. The next 1 to 2 minutes will be a series of still images and video clips showcasing the optical mastery of the 12-100 Pro, and I think it's safe to say Olympus has hit it out of the park again. Last up, and arguably most important, is value. And I think this is a little bit tricky, especially for a lens that retails new for $1,299. Because what we have here is an outstanding general purpose lens. And it's just that. It's simply outstanding at being really good at just about everything. But that also means it's a master of nothing in particular, which unfortunately translates into something that makes the lens kind of boring. The images are sharp, crisp, and colors are accurate and vivid. They're just not all that artistic. For my kind of photography, I prefer to isolate my subjects, and I love bokeh, unless I'm shooting real estate. But with real estate photography, I actually prefer even wider angle lenses, think 14 to 18 millimeters full frame equivalent. Because we are limited to f4 at the 12-100, it's really not the best lens for low light shooting either. Even with the amazing image stabilization from the Olympus's latest camera bodies, as you know, even if the camera is stabilized, image stabilization alone can't compensate for subject movement. On the plus side is the amazing versatility, the incredible Olympus weather sealing, and awesome image quality in good lighting situations. On the downside is, well, it really won't be the best indoor or low light lens, and as mentioned, if you're the kind of photographer who loves their bokeh, it's likely that you won't like this lens when compared to your more traditional portrait type lenses, and you may be better served, in my opinion, with a more conventional portrait lens like the 45-1.2, 25 f1.2, or the 17 f1.2. Now, this is not to say that you can't get subject isolation with the 12-100, because if you zoom all the way out to 100 millimeters, take advantage of the lens close minimum focus distance and get really close to your subject, you can in fact melt the background. But in reality, that's probably not why you buy a lens like this. The last thing, of course, is the price. A list price of $1,299 is a bit stiff for an f4 zoom on Micro Four Thirds. But if you want a good quality general purpose lens that covers a wide focal range with great results in spite of its inherent compromises, then the 12-100 is a good value. If you're a specific kind of shooter, think portraits, low light shooting, weddings, etc., you may want to invest elsewhere. Meaning for value, the 12-100 gets an 8 out of 10. To wrap up this review, we gave the Olympus 12-100mm f4 Pro Series lens a 47.5 out of 50 and our highly recommended rating. The final word: if you're looking for an outstanding, versatile, general-purpose lens for outdoor shooting in good lighting conditions, then I think you should consider the Olympus 12-100mm f4 Pro lens. It's beautifully built and optically excellent. It's a fantastic all-around lens and great companion on a hike or a city walk. Now, if you happen to be a portrait photographer, you could use the 12-100, but you won't get the same subject isolation or bokeh pop that you would get from a lens that's specifically engineered for portraits. So in that sense, I would call the 12-100 an excellent jack of all trades, but unfortunately a master of none. It's still an excellent lens though. I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, and I'm based here in beautiful, sunny Southwest Florida. If you like videos like this, go ahead and give me a like, or better yet, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, happy shooting.